here. You are big. You are big, big, big. Just wish you guys could see this fight. That's a big, big fish. Big fish. Big, 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 big. Big, 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 big. Boy, I never get tired of saying that when I'm on the water. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Everything Kayak Fishing Podcast presented by American Legacy Fishing, Fish Texas Kayak Trailers, and of course, our good friends at Moving Water Outfitters up in Zionsville, Indiana. American Legacy Fishing is going through a website revamp. So if you are getting, the message that the website is down, they've got a whole new website coming online over this next day or so. If you need anything, call the shop. Brian and the crew will take good care of you. And of course, if you're looking for a kayak trailer because you're getting up in age like old Gramps and you're not trying to carry around and loading a truck bed and all that good stuff, and especially if you're like me, looking around 2 full-size fishing kayaks, Fish Texas Kayak Trailers, give Nick a call. He'll take care of you. And of course, if you're anywhere in the Midwest and you're looking for kayak accessories, be sure to visit Mike and the crew up at Moving Water Outfitters. They carry all the brands to me that I would recommend: the New Canoe, the Bonafide, the Old Town, Wilderness, and those big, beautiful native Titan X's. Be sure to visit Moving Water Outfitters up in Zionsville. Now, that's enough of all the promos, the pre-intros, and all that. Let's get to tonight's guest. Now, if you're familiar with the national fishing kayak scene, you keep up with KBF, Bassmasters, you know some Indiana hammers that are out there. You might know of Mike Elsey, been in the KBF the 10, KBF champion. You might know of Glenn Landstrom, another dude that lives around me, who again, the 10 competitor, always in the runnings wherever you go. And then you got the young gun, the Hammer, Mr. Merlin Hammer, who just so happens to be this year Indiana's only Bassmaster Kayak Series Championship. We still call it the Classic. He's the only guy from Indiana that qualified this year. So we had to get him on the show before we head down to Texas here in a couple of weeks. Merlin, how you doing, brother?
Doing great. Yeah, I'm pumped. I'm going to be heading out next week, so ready to get things.
You're going out that early, huh?
Well, I think practice starts on the 14th, so I'm leaving the night of the 13th. So.
Okay, I got you. So you're going to be down there focusing on Fork, getting ready for, I'm guessing, your biggest tournament of your career so far. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I fished I qualified last year at 10 Killer and didn't do as well as I would have hoped, but hoping for some redemption this year.
There we go. Going down and get some of that Texas love with all those giant fish. So have you been out on the water in Indiana at all this year yet, just to kind of get your feet wet and, kind of tune things in? Or is your first time on the water going to be down in Texas?
The yak has not been out at all this year. Everything's been frozen. And I plan on getting out this weekend one of the days just to knock the rust off a little bit.
See, it's a podcast. You're supposed to keep on yapping when I have to get up and go take away the squeaky toys from the dogs. I was like, oh, that's going to be fun for the background noise.
Sorry,
but so let's go back a little bit in your season last year before we get to, talking about Fork a little bit. But tell us a little bit about your season last year with Bassmaster. Kind of how you did, and let the folks who've never fished, Bassmaster, let alone qualify for the Bassmaster Championship. Tell us about the lakes that you visited, how you did in each one, and, kind of what it took to get to the level of being one of the, top guys to qualify to go fish in the championship.
Yeah, so last year I actually started out pretty rough. I think the first event was on Murray, and I caught 2 fish each day, and finished it. Somehow I finished 100 out of like 250 though, so it was tough on a
Oh
lot.
wow.
And yeah, so I was not very happy with that. And then I'm trying to remember all the events last year. After that, I don't know. I think we went to the championship after that, and that, like I said, didn't go very well. So it was like rough events to start the year, but I mean, best 3 out of 5. So I knew I could still make it up. And then I think Gunnersville was on the schedule last year, which is always one of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
Had a pretty decent finish there. Finished decent at Susquehanna. Trying to remember them all. Caddo, Bistano. I think I had a solid finish. And
Yeah.
then what else am I missing? There's another one in there.
I was gonna say you had to have a couple of 1 or 2 good ones in there to get you get enough
Yeah,
in points to get up there.
I didn't finish after Murray. I didn't finish any lower than. Oh, the one that I'm forgetting is the one that bugs me the most. Is Possum Kingdom.
Oh,
I should have had been like 21st in that one, but I ended up like 68th because my 24 1/4 inch fish got disqualified for my mess up of being too excited and not noticing that my identifier was partially blocked.
oh, I remember you talking about that. Yeah, like your biggest fish of the year, and it doesn't
But
count.
yeah.
Oh, but I mean, what's your well, since you caught a fish that size, was that your PB on a catch board?
Oh, that was my PB on everything. Weight,
Everything.
like it was 7.5 pounds, 24 1/4 inch.
Oh,
And yeah, like that one, like I caught it with a half hour left in the day. I only had 3 fish to that point, and I got super pumped because it was being tough on everybody. And then I caught a little
yeah.
like 12 incher to round out my limit. And yeah, it would have been big bass of the event and everything. So it cost some money, it cost a lot of points. And then, but
It's like I have such a great fish, but I mentally block out that whole event because it didn't count.
and then, like I said, I think Gunnersville was like 40 something. And then I know I was around the top 40 for the rest of the year. I ended up, I think, 35th or something in points.
Oh yeah, that's really good.
I was 25th the year before, but last year a lot more people fished. So
Yeah.
Bass is now the only big national series left. And I mean, last year they were getting close to 200 plus people per every event. And so I
Yep.
finished around the top 20% pretty much every event. I mean, I'd like to obviously get up but in the top of the standings, which this year I won't fish as many, but this
Yeah,
next
they seem to be a little bit more out west for a lot of people too. So I mean, I get that. It'd been cool if you can get to like down to Florida to Kissimmee and all that too. But
yeah.
yeah, I was looking at the schedule and I was like, well, I'm gonna go down and watch you guys fish the classic since I'm gonna be down there anyway on vacation, and then I'll fish the kayak adventure series. But then since Bassmaster's coming to Del Hollow, and it's odd that for me living around here, I say this, but I know I've lived most of my adult life in other places in the country, but I've never fished on Del Hollow before, so I'm kind of looking forward to that event just to go down because it's a giant smallie lake versus like all those who chase smallies in rivers too. So
Yeah, this one right here at Fork is it's the main event for the year for me, and it's
there you go.
because it's the first event. And but yeah, I mean, as far as Bassmaster events go this year, it's going to be that one, and I'm still undecided on Dale. I'm leaning towards doing it, but
Yeah.
After that, I don't know if I'll get to any other ones. Like I would like to get to Champlain. It's always been one of my tops on my list to go to. I don't think I'm going to have the time or the money to do it. So
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but I mean, you're fishing the biggest event, and
if
if you
I,
get another one that comes by close, are you going to fish any of the? You said you're going to fish some of the kayak adventure series as well.
yeah, I plan to fish 3 of those. I'll be at the Ohio, Minnesota, and the finale one.
Yeah,
So
okay, yeah, that'll be cool. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to a couple of those. I didn't even think about being able to fish the Texas one while I'm down there, so at least I'll get 3 of them in with that one. Then because that's on the Sunday after you guys get done, so may as well. I know you said you're going to be hauling butt back home to save your vacation days, which understand. And
yeah,
then I'll do the Ohio and then the Minnesota one as well because that will be a fun trip.
yeah, that'll be
But
cool, Texas, because that new Bow Dark Lake
yep,
is.
that's one of them in the mix, and that's probably exactly where I'm going to go fish. So planning on that one. But tell us a little bit. Well, in going back last year, now locally, you still fish a bunch of the local stuff and get around with a couple of trails that are here in Indiana, and you won a couple of those, and it that always kind of helps the fine tuning of the skill set. It's funny because I didn't realize it at the time, but there was a White River event that you won that we were both racing to go to the same bridge, but I didn't know it, so I wasn't in a hurry to get there. I come rolling down the river and I was like, "Oh well, there's Merlin." I should have known. So we sat there and talked a little bit, but I was like, "I'm going to keep on moving down" because I was doing a longer float. But now that was another fun one too. But I know everybody in Indiana knows who you are because you smash them all over the state. And let's back up a little bit and tell everybody kind of how you got into fishing. And I kind of know your story, and I absolutely love it. But talk a little bit about your fishing past, how you got started, and then we'll talk a little bit about the kayak side as well.
Yeah, so I've been fishing since before honestly I can remember. Like my dad put a pole in my hand pretty much when I was 2 years old, and and it's been an addiction
Yep.
ever since. So I mean, started out casting off the docks and pond hopping, and then I mean doing events when I was young, and then got to do some team stuff with him. Me and him still do USA Bass and events around the state here, and then
Yep.
yeah, and I think it was in, I don't know, 2019. I was just on YouTube, and I came across, for kayak fishing, I came across because I've always loved competition and
Yep.
tournaments and everything, but I came across the YouTube of Hoosier State Fishing, Derek Burton, and I saw him fishing a couple IKA events on the rivers. And I was like, oh, I didn't know kayak fishing was a thing. And I actually had just bought a kayak to just do some like small pond, like little local stuff. Cause I moved it up to the Indy area in 2014 and didn't know anything about what was around here. And
Yeah.
so I just pond hopped. And then I was like, I want to do more than just pond hop. So I got a kayak. And then, yeah, I saw his videos. And I was like, oh heck, there's kayak tournaments. That's awesome. And then so 2020 was my rookie year, and I initially was just, I only knew IKA existed, and then I started finding grubby and Sayak, and I was just like, man, there's all kinds of stuff out here, and pretty much jumped in full force. I think 2020 I probably fished, I don't know, 30 plus events. 2021 I fished probably 60 events, and then I tried to rein it back in every year since then.
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, I've been trying to split my time between the national stuff and then still do the local stuff. And
Yeah.
but yeah,
For a state is like ours, I mean, as tall as we are, and with all the waterways being at both lakes, rivers, strip pits, I mean, we have a little bit of everything. It's kind of cool because from top to bottom, we've got. I mean, it's not like we're housing 10-pounders everywhere, but we actually have pretty good smallmouth and largemouth fishing for a state, and we have, I almost wonder if there's how many other states out there besides the giant three, but how many other states out there average the number of like kayak anglers that we actually have, if you consider IKA, SIAC, KBF, Grubby. We have, I mean, hundreds of guys who fish, all of these guys and gals who fish all of these different events. I mean, you can fish every weekend from ice out till it's freezing. Every weekend, there's probably at least one, if not two, events that you can fish in somewhere in this state. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that gets me in trouble a little bit because
Oh,
I have
yeah.
I have a hard time like, oh, I can put something in this weekend. Oh, I can put. Oh, there's so many things I can do, and yeah, that's why this year I tried to tone it back as much as I have since I started, to just try to have some life fishing balance.
Yeah, it's not easy. I had to get out of it for a long time because my kids became of age, and then it was time for, little league and football and tennis and softball and everything that all mine were into. But um, I'm sure you've got little one running around that you got to take care of too.
Nope, just me
No
and
little ones? Okay.
nope, yeah, just me and the wife. And but yeah, she, like, the bad thing about when I'm doing it every weekend, there's weekends when she's like, let's do this, and be like, oh, I already got fishing that weekend, let's do this. And I'm like, and so I trying to make it where we can do some more stuff together this year, and then we'll see how it goes next year, maybe ramp it back up. So
Yeah, I'm sure we didn't help her concerns, of all the time that you're gone and whatnot. The day that you and I are driving home from a derb and there's a tornado running across the highway.
oh, she was in contact with me like that whole time on that day. She was like, pull over, and like you saw me
Yep.
over on the road, and then you stopped behind me.
Yeah, we were sitting there waiting for everything to kind of pass by, but it's a good thing that we have them kind of keeping an eye on things when we're in local derbs, just in case if we have to avoid, weather and whatnot too. Because I was getting the same phone calls you were, so we just scooted on over, got
Yeah.
out of the way, and kind of waited for everything to pass. But so you ended up in a kayak, and I know you and your father still get out and fish together, quite often. You got a trip to Gunnersville coming up in April. And I love that you guys still, get out and fish the boat stuff, and you get to spend that time with him too, because a lot of people as we get older, with things, change and life changes and life happens. And every minute you get to spend with family like that is absolutely incredible. But tell us a little bit about, what kind of kayak you fish out of, and then, how do you have it rigged, and what's your electronics? What powers Merlin Hammer on the water?
Yeah, so for the last 2 years, I've been in a Hobie PA14. I love it. Previously I had a different kayak, and it was good. It was a Native Slayer Max, and it was fine. But that Hobie, I love fishing out of it.
Yeah.
And the first year I had it, I just pedaled, and that was still an upgrade from where I was. And last year I got into the whole power, and then I got a Newport NK180, and that thing made me feel lazy because I wasn't I wasn't pedaling as much. But it's nice getting around a lot faster. And then like I've been, I don't know, for the last 4 years, I've ran a 7-inch Garmin, the 73. And then I, over this off season, I upgraded it to the 126. So went to the 12-inch.
Oh, okay.
I got a TV on the front of my kayaks.
Did you go with the Ultra 2 or the Ultra?
Just the Ultra. I got it
Yeah.
secondhand, but from going from that 7-inch, everything's
Oh, yeah.
so
It's
much.
a whole lot more processing power. And I mean, that's the cool thing about, especially in kayak fishing in the off season, there's always somebody out there who's upgrading to whatever the next thing is. So everybody's watching the kayak groups and who's got what for sale. So, and sometimes you can catch some boaters doing the same thing. But yeah, I think you're really, really going to enjoy that upgrade. You know, and a lot of people don't realize too, it's not just bigger screen. When you get anything like 10 to 12 inches, those bigger, that's a lot more processing than when you saw in the 7 and 9 inches. Because we've all been there. It's just, as you working your way up through it. But yeah, you're gonna be living a whole new world this year.
Yeah, more resolution, more clarity, like all that. And then like I got the old one with the GT54, and eventually I'll probably put the 56 on it. But
Yeah.
what's funny about me is like I love tech, but when it comes to fishing, I'm not techie at all. Like
Yeah.
I'm still super old school in the way that I fish. I mean, I fish a lot like my dad does, and like on our boat. What's funny about it? We have a graph on the console and a graph up front, and he usually runs the boat. And that graph up on the front never even gets turned on.
Yeah. Yeah, people laugh at me because when I pull the boat out, I've got a 5-inch helix with just down imaging up front, and then I've got a 5-inch helix on the console, and that's like my down and side imaging. But pretty much when I'm in the boat, I'm either out crappie fishing or I'm just beating the banks doing what I've always done. Just that's for me. That's my old school fishing way. If I'm going to learn something new, I'm playing in the kayak because that's where I do that kind of thing is, for me, just hopping on the boat. That's when it's, time to flip a jig or throw a spinner bait or, kind of keeping it back in the traditional ways. But yeah, with the whole kayak thing, it just makes it. So tell us a little bit about like the bait companies that you work with. What kind of, I'm not going to look for any juice because we don't want to talk about like Lake Fork, but you as an angler, because, you and I both still follow professional boaters and there's only conversations you can have. And, so it can't be like a Scott Martin or, just chit chatting and whatnot. So, but in general, what are your, let's talk about some of the bait companies you like to work with and kind of what are your like techniques? What are your ways that you love catching fish?
Yeah, so I work with a few. I've worked with Egg Zone for a few years. They've been
Great bait company. Yep.
I work with Discount Tackle I mean, not a bait company, but they have a lot of good stuff. And then let's see. I should have been more prepared. I always forget things, but
it's all good.
I work with Hayabusa. I love their stuff. But
okay.
So the reason I even started working with Hayabusa, so you're asking about my favorite techniques, is I had used Gamakatsu my whole life, and then they're still good hooks, nothing wrong with them, but I use a fluke almost more than any bait. It's one of my favorite baits, and
you and Shrenko,
but he likes to know his hook is, but I like to do the Texas rig weightless. But I used to always run that on a 2-watt Gami, and I never had a problem with it. But then when I got into the kayaks, like I don't know if it was just I needed more hook or what, but I switched to the 3-aught Hayabusa at the wide gap, and that changed my hookup ratio because I was missing a lot of fish. And I was like, what's the difference? Like I've done this my whole life, and just that little hook change made a big change. And but that was what started me with them, and then the rest of their stuff's good. And then
have you ever used any of the ringed hooks? I don't know if Hayabusa makes them, but have you ever used any like ringed EWG hooks just for a little more twitching action on a fluke?
I haven't used it on the fluke. I've used like those VMC ringed hooks that like I had like just a little bit just to try it out. And I mean it was all right, but it's still like I'm like, I just like that direct connection.
I got you. Okay.
But yeah, like I don't know. I mean, I haven't had a problem using my normal setup. Like I like a fluke, a jerk bait is my other favorite thing. And then I mean, always dragging something, either a jig or a big worm, or I'm old school. I still throw a Carolina rig and a Texas rig all the time. So
there's not a lot of people that throw Carolina rigs anymore. It always, I think people, they like dragging either drop shot or something like that. But I still throw that to this day. I mean, my biggest fish in Indiana was a 6.5 pounder on Monroe, and that was dragging a Carolina rig. Of course, that was like in 1998 when I was still doing the whole Bass Boat Club thing.
Yeah,
But
it's such an underrated bait.
I
Like
know.
you were
I
saying,
mean, I think people just kind of forget about it, or it's not like the new hotness. So it's like, oh, I got to go try the newest things.
yeah, you were saying a drop shot. Like if I'm throwing a drop shot, I'm getting pretty desperate because
Yeah.
I don't like throwing a drop shot. Like it's just not. I don't know. It's not my jam.
Yeah, I get you. Now, when you're throwing your fluke, what pound test line or what type of line do you like to throw with that?
So what's crazy about that is, and I'm gonna have to eventually change, and I don't know if it even makes sense because I think it's more of just a confidence thing because it's something I've thrown my whole life. But I use 12-pound test silver thread AN40, which I have to still buy on eBay because it's a discontinued line of, and I like the spools I use. They're probably 15-year-old, 20-year-old spools because that's been
Holy
discontinued.
cow.
But it's such a strong line. Like I've always trusted it, and
Yeah,
I was upset when it went away. And the reason I use it is that's what my dad always used.
I got you.
It's green. I always love moss green line because of that, like over clear line. I don't know. It's just one of those things, confidence things. Like I've thrown a fluke on fluorocarbon, 12-pound test, done just as good, but I always go back to that AM40 just because like until I have to switch, which won't be too long because I'm working through those spools. But I mean, they were like 3,000-yard spools, so they take a little time to work through.
Holy smokes.
But yeah, when you can get a 3,000-yard spool for like $40, it's not bad.
Yeah, I'm saying.
But yeah,
Somebody wanted to know if you ever fish Brush Creek.
I have never fished it, and I only live like I don't know, a little over an hour away from it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I mean, it's about, I think it's like an hour and 15 for me, but that's one of those places where if I'm not fishing a derb, I catch giants. If I go over there for a derby, I don't know where they go.
Yeah, one thing.
They're wherever I'm not.
Yeah, one of those things is like I've always watched the grubby standings, and I'm like, I'm not that impressed by the what comes out of there. Yeah, you get an occasional 20, or I mean,
Yeah.
I like people have big days out there, but they're more rare than not. But I
Yeah.
mean, it's one of the places that has it seems like it has a good number of big fish in it. I don't know. I've never been down there.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, it's kind of like part strip pit, part lake. Yeah, to me, it kind of fishes a little bit like bluegrass. Just um, the pit part of it's not quite as deep, but it kind of sets up the same way. But and and then a lot of people who like to go fish off on the shallow, so it's literally like half of it shallow that runs back up towards a creek, 5-6 feet, and then into 3 feet, and then around the edges, nice rocks, and then like a nice little pit in the middle that maybe gets, I think it's like 25, 30 feet. It's just one of those things where it's like, I feel like when I'm fishing there, it's like a training ground for like any kind of technique that you want to play with. But yeah,
Yeah,
these days, I kind of get set where I want to go and just try to keep it close to home and not have to travel too awful much.
you're saying bluegrass. That's one that I I've never had like super success on it. I've had some okay days like in the 80s, but I've never had one of those like crazy days out there. Like
Yeah.
I've
I
caught two.
remember a couple years ago, I was having a great day there and I had 4 fish. And I can't remember who it was. It was either Cole Ritter or somebody was texting me, dude, one more fish. You could be in the money in this. And I'm like, oh, don't do that to me. Of course, I never caught the 5th fish, but it it is what it is. But I gotta say, I ran into my best day in Indiana out there last year. And just one of those things, everything aligned and it all came together and
I had one of those days last
had
year.
one of those days.
I had I had my best single day performance last year, and it was on a lake I had never even been to. First time being there.
Oh wow.
And I ended up winning 2 tournaments on it. That was at Eagle Creek, and I'd never been there.
Dude, I used to fish Eagle Creek when I lived in Indy
I,
back in, and I was in a boat back then, and we would find like dinks here and there, but it was just like I could never find anything decent, so I just never wanted to go there. And I
yeah,
think at some point after that, I discovered Atterbury, and I never wanted to go anywhere after that.
I do on it last year. The first time ever fishing it, and I was like, "Oh, this place is pretty cool." I was like, so like I grew up just south of Bloomington, so like when me and my dad would go fishing, it was Monroe, which
Yeah.
is our favorite lake. But
Ugh.
but I love Monroe, and I mean it's the probably the hardest training ground there is to ever
Yep.
come up on, and I think that's part of why I why I've gotten better is
Yeah.
fishing. It's
We
like
talked about that last year, being, using Monroe as a training ground because it's one of those things. It's such a big lake. It gets pressured so much. But if you can get good there, that translates to, you can take all kinds of situations from just that lake
yeah,
and travel around the country and probably do pretty good. My
that's
only problem is my favorite place to fish there is on the exact opposite side of the lake of where I live.
but yeah, that's why when I went to Eagle Creek, like it feels like a miniature Monroe, and I was like, this is just like right up my my alley. I was like, I
Yeah.
love. It.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking, looking at the SIAC calendar. No Monroe this year, but we're going to be down at Patoka. Which, if you guys, for those of you that live outside of Indiana, Patoka is like our second biggest lake. If there's ever going to be like a Bassmaster or Major League Fishing or anything that comes here, it's generally either going to be at Lake Monroe or Patoka. Those are like the two biggest lakes we have that are full of fish. And I remember Tactical Bassin even came to Patoka a few years back, and dude, they actually caught some pretty good fish while they were here.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
shoot, yeah,
My rookie year, KBF came to Monroe, and I was kicking myself because it was on the same weekend. I think SIAC had an event, Groby had an event, and KBF had their event. And I had some rough tournaments leading up to it, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna fish one of these, and I fished Grubby, and I went out that day, slammed them on a buzz bait, had a really good, I had a solid limit, and I like after that day, I think I finished, I don't know, second in that event, but that single day I would have won the SIAC and I would have like placed like second or third in the KBF event. And I was like, why did I not do it?
yeah. You just never know. I mean, you know how that place is. I always call it the Dead Sea that you can catch your PB in. I mean, they're in there, but it's just few and far between sometimes.
Oh yeah, I got on a morning bite with a buzz bait and it was over in like 45 minutes. And I think I had like one bite the rest of the day.
Yeah, I remember. It was a couple years ago, but I think I was fishing in the when Howe has their Jim Dolan Memorial Tournament. And I think it was a month long, but I actually won this. I can't remember what all the states that were around us, but I actually won it back to back, fishing in Monroe most of the time. And for whatever reason, I just haven't been back there that much since, even though it's 30 minutes away. It seems like I want to drive an hour or an hour and a half to all these other places except for Monroe. But
Yeah.
who knows? I mean, I said I'm going to get out there on Monroe a little more this year, just like you said, make it a training ground, put the old XDR to work, um, go hit some spots I used to fish with my old partner back in the day, and see if we can't find any fish. You know how that goes.
Yeah. 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 Like, going back to baits, what's crazy is, all three of my wins last year and some of my success the previous year all came on a bait that I was never really good with. And that's a jig. And I was,
Really?
yeah. And I was just like, well, I guess I need to keep that in my hand more often. But I mean,
What's your biggest in Indiana?
22 and a quarter. And I,
Is that the old was that the old man?
yeah, that was that really old fish down in Sugar Ridge. And I caught it on my Buster K, my frog.
That's right. That's right. You sent me a picture of that fish, and I'm like, I'm thinking like the Simpsons Smithers or something. I was like, that is the oldest bass I've ever seen. This
Yeah,
fish was 22 and a quarter inches long. It fit inside the catch board.
yeah. I weighed it. It was a tick over 5 pounds.
Yeah, that dude was on his last leg, but he wanted to eat. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. That was awesome. And like, uh, one of the reasons I was even at that place was I mean, if we want to talk about like how I like prepare for a tournament, like I use that fish brain app a lot.
Okay, yeah.
It had some like I just looked for some clues, and that one just had some good clues, and
Yeah.
I think that was my first fish of the day that day. Like
Wow. I mean, that was insane.
it wasn't even light out, like it was crazy.
Just throwing that frog of yours.
Oh
You
yeah,
got me motivated to throw the frog a little more last year, so that actually helped me catch my PB.
that's my favorite bait. Yeah, like
Yep. I'm not gonna say favorite yet, but I mean, I caught a 20 at Caddo. I caught that 22 and a half down at Gunnersville. It's definitely, and I like throwing the tackle sprinkler, but that's the one that works for me. So, I got to, I bought a couple more in the off season, even though they're hard to find. But yeah, I get it. I mean, I've actually got a combo for it now.
yeah, the combo I use is actually a rod I built myself. Like
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, like my frog rod. So I'm weird, and when I use moving baits, I like to use a rod that won't like fatigue me. Like so, I like a short rod.
Okay.
Like traditionally frog rods are like 7.3 to 7.6, somewhere in that range. I built a 6.6 frog rod, and and I love it. And actually, when I built it, I was doing my research and I saw where Gene Jensen, he had, when he was with 13, he had his special frog rod from them that was a 6.6 rod that he had. And but yeah, like I was like, because I was just gonna buy one, but that one was like sold out everywhere. So I was like, I'll just build my own. And that thing has been a workhorse for the last several years since I built it.
Yeah. Is it like a heavy fast, or do you like the extra heavy?
Heavy fast. That's what
Heavy
I.
fast. Okay.
And the thing when I frog, like I'm not just like throwing in slop and what. I throw a frog everywhere. Like
Yeah, I have to say, with me lately, I've been treating it probably more like a buzz bait that comes through anything than like fishing a frog like anybody else would. But hey, whatever it takes, whatever works.
yeah, bogs was like when me and my dad were doing boat tournaments. Bogs is where I figured out like frogs aren't just for the slop. Like you go down anywhere on bogs on that riprap and you throw a frog, or it used to. It's gotten a little worse since everybody fishes it more.
Yeah.
But there were times when we would go out there and catch like 100 fish on a frog, just trolling down that every bit of riprap, just throwing a
Yep.
frog.
Yeah. I mean, and Boggs is coming around. It's one of those places where the fish are finally getting a little bigger, and it's really kind of cool.
Oh yeah, I was excited to see last year, like the spring, especially USA Bass and results. Like it took like 24 pounds to win, and there was like an 8 pound kicker.
Yeah. Well, and I think early in the season, there were two 7-pounders caught. And
Yeah.
we were because we always watch the USA Bass and results. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
here's another little fun fact, and you may know this or may not. There's another Indiana kid, probably close to your age, who fishes tournaments at Boggs that qualified and is going to the Bassmaster Classic on the boat side, and that's Mr. Jeremy Knepp. And
Oh,
he is like, I knew you would. I knew you probably knew that name, but
no, I
yeah, he
know that's actually cool.
yep. So we got you going down there from repping Indiana, and then we got Jeremy Knepp qualified through the Bass Nation to go and fishing on the boater side. So it's going to be kind of cool seeing you two guys representing the state down there. In both the classics. That'd be kind of cool. Maybe you guys
Oh
can
yeah.
team up and both of you get 2 trophies, and I'll interview both of you.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a good finish. Like I've been doing all the Google Earthing and everything, and
Yep.
But I've done as much research as I want to do now. I just want to be out there.
Yeah. Are you kind of to the point now you think you got a basic game plan to start with and then
Yeah.
kind of going from there, getting ready?
Yeah. Yeah. The hard thing is, like, I've actually been going through all my tackle because I haven't gone through it since the end of last season, and
Yep.
I have so much stuff. I always rotate things in and out and stuff, and I ended up rotating more in than I took out, and I was like, it's hard going on those trips and not wanting to take like everything because you're just like, I don't know what I'm gonna want, and like half of it
Right.
in the truck, but it's better than going down there and having to buy a bunch of stuff. So I'm like, I'll just take it just in case. But yeah,
Yeah,
like
I don't blame you.
I'm in tackle prep mode right now. Hopefully be done by this weekend because I mean, like I said, I'll be leaving Thursday, but
It's
yeah,
hard to believe it's coming up that fast already, huh?
I know, like I've spent all off season getting my kayak ready here and there, and I always write like a checklist. Like before my tournaments, I always write before I even tie baits on. I always make notes. Like I'll I have the sickness so bad. I'll be working and I'll be like think of a bait and I'll be like I need that and I'll type it on my notes on my phone. And I always have like a lineup of baits before I even start prepping my baits. And then like I usually bring 12 or so rods in the kayak and I have like my starting lineup all written down before I even start tying anything on. And
Yeah.
then it's just I got everything ready. And like I said, those lists, like I'll have tournaments written down on there for the like different parts of the year and be like, I need to have this ready and this ready. So like I don't know, I'm always thinking about it. Like
Yeah.
I'm working, but I work from home, so I'm always like looking around me and like thinking about what's going on.
Kind of hard to get anything done that way, huh?
I don't mess with it as much, but I'm like always like, okay, I think I got that, but yeah, so
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, said I keep you about an hour, and I don't want to keep you too much later because I got to get to bed too. But I just wanted to get you in and holler a little bit tonight, and wish you the best while we're down there. Hopefully, I'll see you. I'm going to go down, and I'm gonna go down the weekend before, and I'm going to go fish OHIV with Nick from Fish Texas Kayak Trailers. We'll probably jack around on the water while you guys are pre-fishing on Fork because I want to talk to a few. I'm going to follow like Michael Ridenauer around. I'll probably follow Gene around, shoot some video. I'll probably ask you where you're going to be. And then, if you see a drone coming overhead, that's just, especially when you guys are fishing, my goal is to be out there trying to film and cover the event. Especially for some friends of mine, let alone, a local that's here from Indiana as well. But I want to get some good footage and actions of you guys on the water too. That should be pretty cool. But yeah, I'd love to see you go down there and just absolutely smash them. And man, it's Lake Fork. I mean, anything can happen.
no, I know last year fishing Possum Kingdom and having a little success there, and then I'm ready to try get some of those giants again. Like it should be fun.
Yeah.
I'm
Do you watch a lot of like the old Bassmaster footage from when they've been to places like that just to kind of pick up on clues and techniques and kind of see what other guys have done then? That's
Yeah,
one thing Jeremy and I just do like forever if we know we're going to go somewhere.
yeah, I'll watch some of that stuff, but the hard thing about some of that stuff is other people are looking at that stuff, and
Yep.
I try not to be where everybody else is, which it's never easy. Like last year at 10 Killer, it fished so small. I mean, that lake 10 Killer is only a little bit bigger than Lake Monroe, and I mean there were like 200 people on it, but yeah, like I ended up picking the wrong spot last year because I was had a secondary spot, and that's where like Guillermo and a few other people ended up being. My secondary was their primary, and I was like,
Right, right.
I was like, dang it.
Yep. Sometimes it doesn't hurt to drive by and look in the parking lot and see who's doing what. It's like, okay, this must be something good here.
But yeah, I definitely try to pay attention to historical stuff if I can find it, and I mean, I'm just like anybody, watch the YouTube videos, read up on anything you can. And I mean, for me though, like I'm not even much of a practicer. Like I around here, definitely I never practice, but
Just
like
go fish.
on those national tournaments, I usually give myself 2 days, but I mean, this championship, I'm giving myself 5 days just because there's a lot that I want to break down, and I want to
Yep.
cover as much as I can.
Yep. And like you said, it's the Super Bowl. It's the biggest one of the year. So I don't blame you.
Yeah, and I'm going to be sharing a house with some cool guys down there too, and so I'm excited for that. I'm going to be staying with Drew, so that'd be cool.
Nah, it can't beat that, dude. Because I mean, that's a good thing about being in a good house. Because a lot of people don't know this when we talk about the information rule and things of this and that. But you can have discussions and conversations and share with people in the tournament. So honestly, if it wasn't for Merlin when we were at the Susquehanna, I probably would have skunked in there after that damn rain came through. But he was like, be a troll, just be a bridge troll, be a bridge troll. And I pretty much stayed there all day. And that helped me at least put some fish on my first ever Bassmaster event. So I didn't drive all the way out to Pennsylvania and skunk. And that's thanks to this dude right here. So,
Yeah. Last year,
just
I mean, I try to help people I'm staying with out. Like last year, like at Gunnersville, I gave on the second day, I gave Ryan Becker my secondary spot, and he went and caught a limit, and he hadn't had a limit the day before, so that was nice to see. It's always, I mean, if you're not gonna fish it, and
yeah.
you might as well.
But that's one thing I really love about our community is we're not that competitive that we're just going to bury each other and let somebody go. If we can help, we do. Whether it's baits, parts, pieces, rods, reels, whatever. That's one thing I really love about how open arms this community really is.
Yeah, I mean, look at the elites last week. Though, like sometimes the boat guys will be nice too. It's not like that a lot often, but those guys
No.
were right on top of each other, sharing stuff, telling
Yeah,
each other.
4 boats that were all like they could step on each other's boats at the beginning of the day. It's crazy.
It's one of those things, though. It's like if you're confident enough in what you're fishing and what you're doing, you
Mhm.
tell the other person exactly what's going on. And I mean, if you're just doing your own thing, you're gonna beat them. I mean,
Yep. Well, even Polinick handing out one of his, Megabass crankbaits that you pointed out, just to have somebody, help somebody out just
yeah,
because he could.
that's why on my Instagram, like my dad gives me such heck because like I share pretty much everything that I use, and he's like, "Why are you telling everybody stuff?" Because he grew up where you don't tell anybody anything.
Exactly.
He's like, "Why are you telling everybody?" Like he's like, "Stop telling them what you're doing, or that's like it's gonna go back on you." And I'm like, I mean, they're not going to. I mean, you still got to fish it the exact.
Yeah.
I mean, you can give people baits, but they still got to do it right.
Yeah. I mean, and the whole thing is too, is you're going to catch your fish.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's going to come down to. So I think again, if we, and that's why our community is growing so much, we share so much information that if you get somebody out there where they're not discouraged, they don't want to fish anymore, but you get them where they like to go catch fish, and then they kind of figure out things on their own, then they'll go back and do it over and over again. I mean, like Matt Kiefer, I've learned just certain colors and baits that I've watched him have success with, and then it's like helped me in different places too. There's a lot of other things that I throw as well, but sometimes if I just can't get bit, let me throw on this crankbait, let me throw on this Ned rig. And I have to, and I give him credit for whenever I catch a bait on a 6 cents Crush 100X chartreuse blackback, and then the Z-Man Copper Truce Neds. If it weren't for Matt, I probably would have never thrown a crankbait because I've always thrown spinner baits and chatter baits, and I didn't rarely ever throw a Ned, but watching and listening, taking in what he's kind of taught, it works. And that's just, and then I've heard that everybody's heard me talk about, such and such too. But yeah, it's kind of cool where we're at in a kayak community where we get out and we can do that. And like you said, you still got to go catch your fish.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just, I mean, you're gonna have your day when you have your day.
Yes, sir. Well, we'll let everybody know before we get out here, kind of when we get back from Texas and as we get into like the more local season. I think Merlin and I are going to be setting up a SIAC, live stream where we can talk about our local Indiana, Southern Indiana Yak Anglers Club. And then we'll come on and give updates before and after each of the tournaments and whatnot. Maybe, encourage some other folks that haven't tried a SIAC event in person to come out and fish with us, join us for a day on the water, and then come to, we always laugh, call it the Wiener Fest afterwards. They cook up hot dogs, we have lunch, we tell jokes, we talk about our day on the water. We're going to give out lots of good different prizes and stuff this too. So if you're around the Indiana area, down in Kentucky, over in Illinois or Ohio, and you want to come up to a really cool club event in person, trophies and prize packs and things like that, we'd love to have you come out. But yeah, Merlin and I will be doing a thing down the road, and we'll get more into that down the road. But kind of just wanted to throw that out there for everybody listening tonight.
For sure. Yeah, it's gonna be a good season. Yeah, it'll
Yes,
be
sir.
that. I mean, I'm ready. Even though I'm gonna tone it down just a skosh, it'll still be a great season.
Oh yeah, can't wait, can't wait, can't wait. All right, Merlin, I'm gonna let you get out of here. I'm gonna wish you again good luck down at Lake Fork, and yeah, can't wait.
All right. Hopefully, I can represent.
We'd love to see it. And I mean, that would be so cool for an Indiana boy to bring that thing home. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in tonight. And yeah, keep watching. I'll be watching. Make sure you're watching Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and the whole nine. I'm going to try to bring as much footage, from Texas covering these guys as I can, along with the boat guys and all that as well. But as always, get outside when you can and make some memories, one cast at a time.